Buenos días, buenas tardes y buenas noches. Bom dia, boa tarde y boa noite. Have you felt the effects of COVID-19 and lost your job? Maybe you have even filed or considered filing for unemployment. If this is you, you might also be super worried about how the unemployment process is actually going to impact your immigration. And if this is you, I would totally invite you to stay tuned to the end of this video because I'm here to tell you what you can do in order to get your unemployment, but also avoid being labeled as a public charge for your immigration purposes and essentially hurting your immigration case. My name is attorney Ribeiro and I help professionals and entrepreneurs get their green card. And today you'll want to stick with me if you want tips on how to avoid becoming a public charge if you file for unemployment and essentially hurting your immigration case. Okay, so before we get into all the juicy, valuable tips, first let me welcome all the newcomers. If you are watching this video, you know I am very sorry for the circumstances that brought you here. However, I'm really glad that you found us because we usually do give excellent content and value on how we can help you with your immigration case. So make sure that if you aren't already subscribed, do so now. And then also for people who are looking for how to get a green card and you're a professional and or entrepreneur, I would also invite you to download our free immigration checklist on getting your green card as a professional or as an entrepreneur. So I'm leaving that link for you guys at the bottom. All right, those were all the special announcements. Let's get right into it. So first of all, what is a public charge? Our loving Trump administration passed a new requirement in which if you are applying for your green card, if you're applying for citizenship, there is a question of whether or not you are likely to become a public charge. What is a public charge? It essentially means a financial burden on our government's resources. So they want to make sure that you are, as an immigrant, contributing as opposed to taking away resources if you were to be let in as a green card holder or as a permanent resident or as a citizen. So you may have already saw my video in which I was talking about, if you decided to file for unemployment because you lost your job because of COVID, if it will have an impact on your immigration process. Technically speaking, no, it's not going to be a default, okay, you are now a public charge, but there are things that could impact the public charge rule if it is found against you. And so today's video is all about what is it that you can do in order to make sure that you are avoiding the immigration officer finding that you are likely to be a public charge. So you already know that in my other video, if you are going to be applying for unemployment, it is state regulated. So for instance, unemployment in New York has different rules than unemployment here in Florida and unemployment over in California. So it's definitely state run. And you know that you need your social security number and your EAD, your work authorization. The actual act of filing for unemployment will not in and of itself actually work against you in a public charge. However, let's just keep it 100. Let's just keep it real. If you are unemployed for any period of time, regardless of the fact of whether or not you ask for unemployment benefits or whether or not it's due to COVID, it will negatively impact your immigration. However, there are things that you can do in order so that it doesn't necessarily work against you, where you are actually providing the officer with information so that when they are looking at the totality of the circumstances, meaning they're looking at all of the different factors when they are weighing if you're going to be a public charge, that will be considered, but it won't necessarily be the end all be all. So You guys may know that if you are filing for your green card, they're going to be asking about your public charge and this new form that you have to fill out. In deciding whether or not you're going to be a public charge, the officer can look at 5 different things. They're going to look at how old you are. They're going to look at how much money you make, your income, passive income, active income, the other revenue streams that you might have. They're also going to look at your education and your skill, and they're going to look at how healthy you are. Then they're going to look at how many people are in your family, so your family size. So they're going to look at all those 5 things, and that's what I mean with the totality of the circumstances. Each one is going to have a weight to it, and the officer is going to be able to look at all 5 of them to make the determination of whether or not you're likely to become a public charge. Now, I will tell you this, anything that you can do to help the officer make a decision, you should do it. The USCIS immigration officers have a lot of discretion, so I would really encourage you to be proactive in helping them make a decision in your favor, right? Give them the information, give them the documents that you need so that it'll help them make a finding. It'll help them see, oh no, this person is not actually going to be a burden on our government resources. So how can you do that? There's a few things. So what you need to do is you need to show documentation that despite your unemployment, so even though you are unemployed, you want to be able to show documentation that that is not actually stopping you from looking for a job, right? So you want to be able to actively show the officer that you're not just sitting back and waiting to collect a paycheck from the government. That's not actually going to help you get your green card. You want to be able to show them, look, even though I was unemployed, even though I got discharged, I got laid off, whatever it is from my current employment, look at all the things that I have been doing, in order to try to find a job. And before you even get to that, you may even want to show them the fact that you are not actually allowed to be working right now. So many states have a shelter in place, a lockdown order where they are actually ordering non-essential businesses to be closed to the public. So you want to gather those pieces of information. If you have news articles where the governor of your state issued a shelter in place order or a closure of businesses, you want to grab those pieces of documentation so that you can show it to the officer. Look, nobody was working. It's not just me. It's nobody was working, and it's because of COVID. Now, if it is because of COVID, you also want to be able to show them, articles in which, what is the unemployment rate right now because of COVID? How many people have been laid off? How many people have been discharged? How many other people have been losing their jobs because of COVID? That's another piece of documentation that you can show the officer. It's not just me. It's not because I didn't have the skills or I didn't, whatever. It's not a personal thing on you. It's something that everyone is feeling the effects on. So you want to grab those documentations to show the officer, listen, this is not a circumstance that applies just to me. Everybody is in this boat. Everybody is handling this. The next thing you want to be able to show them is any kind of written notice that you got from your employer. So if your employer wrote you a letter, or if your employer wrote you an email, if your employer wrote you a text, whatever it is that you can show the officer for the reasons that you got laid off. And if it is particular to COVID, you want to capture that documentation so you can present it if you are asked about it. Next, you want to not just show, oh, look, this is happening to everybody, but you want to show that you are determined to find a job, right? So most states require that you have to continually be looking for a job while you are collecting unemployment benefits. Most states have that anyway. However, your job is now to document that, knowing that you are going to be likely to present it to your immigration officer. So what do I mean? If you are, have a copy of your resume ready, have a copy of the job searches that you have been looking for, have a copy of the applications that you submitted, the dates that you submitted them to, the companies that received them. If you have gotten interview requests, maybe they're virtual interviews because people know that this shelter in place, this lockdown is only temporary. So maybe they are still hiring people or interviewing people so that when the shelter in place is done, they already have their candidates that they can go ahead and have for an in-person interview, or maybe even offer the job. So if you're having interviews on Zoom or telephone, have documentation that shows you were scheduled for these interviews while you are on unemployment, while you are getting these unemployment benefits. The other thing that you want to do is you want to be able to write down a statement. And I would encourage you, don't wait until the officer actually asks for this, because that might be, I don't know, 6 months. Who knows when they're actually going to ask you for this, and then you have to rely on your memory and remember how you felt right now and remember the events that you had to go through. Do it now. Do not wait. Write a written statement explaining your situation. So letting them know, where were you working beforehand? How much money were you making? What were your job duties? What were your titles? What was the name of your employer? What was your schedule like? What were you responsible for? Did you have to supervise other people? Give them a summary of what you were doing before you lost your job. And you want to tell them, because of the effects of COVID, if that's why you lost your job, because we're always being honest, but if you lost your job because of the effects of COVID, you want to be able to tell that story, okay? It's all about telling your story through this written explanation, through this written statement. Then you want to also tell them that, look, just because I lost my job and I had to go through unemployment to get these unemployment benefits, because I have to feed my family, I have to clothe my family, I have to whatever it is. Also tell them what you are doing to actively get off of unemployment benefits, right? So that is really your opportunity to tell your story and to show that the immigration officer, let me help you make a decision and show you that I'm actually not likely to become a public charge, despite the fact that I lost my job and I had to file for unemployment. Look at all of these things that I'm going to be showing you, that I am actively looking for a job because I am not likely to become a public charge, and therefore you should not use that against me. But you have to do your part in helping the officer realize this. Don't expect that they assume these things. Don't expect that they are going to do the work for you. They have enough work. I promise you that they are inundated with the work. Make their job easy and go ahead and be proactive in preparing these written documentations so that you can tell your story and really convince the officer, I'm not going to be a public charge, and this is why you should also agree with me that I'm not going to be a public charge. So let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. I'm happy to hear, what it is that you've been experiencing during this unemployment, during this COVID-19 pandemic, and let me know what you're actually doing. So I don't want to hear just, mumbles and grumbles, oh, this is terrible. No, keep those to yourself. Tell me what you're actually doing to get over this unemployment and this temporary uphill battle of what we are all doing. That's what I want to know about. So I invite you to comment, and I will see you on the next one.